Hello, I'm Rob Price. This season, we're exploring Agentic AI from the perspectives of those driving its evolution. Welcome to Futurise.
So my name's Steve Smith. I am an owner of probably a mid-sized training business in the UK. We have about 1,000 apprentices on our programs. We deliver leadership and management programs for what tend to be large organizations, business to business. We also have a speaker bureau which delivers events right across the globe. So really exciting business where we're growing pretty quickly, grown our headcounts, grown our revenue, but more importantly, we are in the business of making people achieve or helping people achieve their potential. And that's what I love about business.
And Steve, we've worked together in the past, so I've had people in my teams work with you in terms of go through apprenticeships. It tends to be businesses that you work with, the people in businesses doing those apprenticeships, isn't it? In terms of the focus of what you do.
Yeah, so absolutely. So apprenticeships is a really broad term, right? And it's a really misleading term sometimes. And I really wish that the government would rebadge the phrase apprenticeships because they're actually qualifications for people at any age. And I think people who aren't in our world will look at it and go, well, you say that, but it's probably underskilled workers or it's probably kids going into work or well, no, it's absolutely not. And thousands of apprentices that we've got on program are from right across sectors, from some of the most amazing brands, but they're leaders and managers who need the skills to be leaders and managers. So there's a lot of accidental managers out there, people who find themselves in management roles but don't know some of they've never been taught the basics of how to do their job. And you wouldn't do that in any other part of a business setup. But again, but why do we put people into management roles and they've had no training on how to manage a project or how to read a P&L? Or HR law, or how to deliver a team meeting, or how to give feedback, or all of these things which you could label them under soft skills, but really reading the P&L, really managing a project, really engaging stakeholders. Well, if they're soft skills and they're not needed in a business, then I'd be very surprised. So we have all of these leaders and managers who we're trying to get them up to a level so that they've got all of the skills to lead in a new world.
Excellent. And so anyone listening at this point, used to me talking about AI and agentic AI is waiting for the okay, so what's the link between an apprenticeship and training business and enabling people to be their best self and AI? So what happened one day, Steve, in terms of thinking about AI can help your business?
So one day, I love tech, right? I guess you'd call me an early adopter and stuff. And, even from the early days, so we've been around 20 years. So, we built an LMS system, in the first couple of years of our work. We adapted it from a HR system and moved it into our world. We developed an app. We adopted augmented reality pretty quickly, which was great. We still deliver in the metaverse. Some of our programs are delivered in a complete virtual space for some of our clients, which I love. It's just so exciting. So when new tech comes along, I love it, and I think my passion as well comes from I've learned to be a marketeer. So whenever there's anything around the tech space or to help support in marketing, I'm all over it. So whether that was an early adopter in PPC or SEO or wherever it was, I kind of had to focus on that. So when AI came out, the logical first steps for AI or the obvious first steps were to support marketing. And I happened to be on LinkedIn and somebody mentioned this ChatGPT thing. I think this was maybe late November. I think it came out in the November, and it was late November when I first picked it up. I was blown away. I was really blown away, and straight away could see the practical applications for marketing. My challenge, with that was I probably get a bit too excited, and the old entrepreneurs piece of fail fast. AI is a dangerous thing to do because you throw it out to everybody, and invariably it gets used in lots of different ways, and it can be inconsistent. But I was so excited to get into the business. But we've got about 100 staff, and obviously lots of different functions that we operate in. But straight away, I could see the huge benefits of it. So we kind of came together with our exec team, and as usual, he said, "Steve, calm down, take a few steps back, just chill out, and can we come up with a more structured approach for it?" And what we did, Rob, is we came up with something called the ChatGPT Cup, and this was actually the December after it was launched, after ChatGPT was launched in the November, and we put it out to the whole team, and we said, look, go out there, use ChatGPT, come back with the best ways of enhancing our learner journey, uh, coming up with efficiencies, uh, making your experience at work better. All of these things we threw out and said, look, we'll take the best ideas and then we'll give a cash bonus to the people who come up with the best ideas. So what we ended up with was, lots and lots of solutions that our team could use, and some of them we adopted. So how did it come in? It was just really just I could straight away. I'm one of those people where I loved it from day one, and I'm still loving getting to grips with it.
And we've talked a lot about the importance of experimenting, and that's a perfect example of that. It's kind of understand how something works and how something can be deployed in the context of the things that are important to you as the business. What is important to you from the business point of view? So, if of those ideas that everyone came up with, what were the criteria that maybe you looked at and thought those are going to be more interesting than others because it achieves some of the things that you're trying to make happen?
Yeah, so let's take the obvious stuff out of the equation, which everybody knows about, whether that's support and writing copy, support and writing social media, all that stuff which is taken as a given, writing a letter in a certain tone, all that type of good stuff, even the basics of proofreading, right? For some people who don't have the best English or whatever, it's a great tool to be able to use stuff like that. But the reality of our business is, if we take the absolute basics of it, is probably 70% of our whole business is no, actually probably 60% of our whole business is government funded. Our funding bands were set in 2017. Up until last year, inflation ran at probably 30%. Uh, and but we had to deliver within the same funding bands, but ultimately deliver the same, if not more quality, because ultimately we are monitored and we are audited by government bodies, so heavily compliant, and we need to provide the right product because ultimately we're using, well, public money, I suppose, but the apprenticeship levy. So you have to look at it and you have to go, look, okay, well, how do we run commercially as a business? So how do we marry that up with, the vocational side of providing a learner with the very best delivery model to go out there and be really inspired to be the best manager that they can be? And sometimes they don't necessarily go together. So my excitement with AI was saying, okay, how can we streamline some of our processes? How can we enhance some of our creativity? And how can we ultimately deliver in a more commercial, in a more commercial way, bearing in mind our funding hasn't increased since 2017. Now, our funding has been increased, luckily this year. It's one of the few things that have been increased, but now, like most businesses, we've got to find some efficiencies around things like the budget. So, but that's just the way it is, and I see AI as a brilliant tool to create those efficiencies whilst also enhancing the learner journey.
So at the heart of that is productivity, and but in that regulated environment, because I know that you had Ofsted round recently, for example. So it's got to be done in an environment that people are confident around the use of personal data, confident that it's compliant in the various kind of rules that those bodies have. If we wind forward to today, because you are using AI today, you are using multiple agents to help kind of people do things. What's been that experience like? Because and thinking of it both in terms of adoption and thinking of it because I mean then that's new stuff. I mean it's not as though there are organizations across the world who all have multi-agent teams doing interesting things supporting people on the ground. So tell us a bit about the experience, but from the perspective of your teams, not so much the technology itself.
Okay, so from a human team's perspective, it's not easy, I mean, it's the human side of change, isn't it? It's that kind of fight, flight, freeze mechanism of do I resist it? Do I just, pretend that I'm adopting, or do I run away from it? There's a huge amount of emotion that goes with change. I mean, just trying to get somebody, to move their desk to another part, or to change chairs is sometimes an emotional wrench, let alone taking on a new technology. So, and all about that. I'm newer to that type of journey, and you balance up the entrepreneurial side of get out there, make it happen. Some of the best ideas are lost in business plans, so you've got to get out there, because sometimes the journey that you go on ends up being a different journey to where you end up. So there's got to be an element of experimentation. There's got to be an element of failing fast, but that doesn't necessarily go with heavily compliant world, and structures that are being put in place over time. I can look at it from a leadership perspective and a strategic perspective and go, well, you know what? We've invested a lot of time and effort in some of the processes that we've put in place to get us to this point. And people are really invested in those processes as well. My job, I guess, is to challenge that, to look at, see if there's a different way, but be really empathetic to the processes that are being put in place. And that's not easy. And I certainly made mistakes of trying to move too fast with it. I made mistakes of trying to push people into it, because you presume that everybody has the same excitement as I do. And obviously there's a trust piece as well, that, there's the rhetoric around AI is that it will take your jobs. Whereas me as the owner of the business, that's never, ever a thought for me. My thoughts are totally, this is going to make you incredible at your job. This is going to help you create the most amazing experience for your people. This is going to get you focused on the things that that you want to do, rather than things that really bore you. And so it's a really strange dynamic, because there's a natural survival piece of going, oh, right, right, what's this AI thing? And people keep on talking about it taking our jobs. With the reality of, embracing is, well, this is going to make me incredible, and that's what I love about it. So it's a real balance as we work through it.
And it's a brilliant contrast the last conversation on the previous episode, we were talking about an organization that was effectively a set of agents in support of somebody, and that was the entire organization. But we were equally looking at that as an edge case and thinking, what's that right balance? What's the right balance between the human workforce and the agentic workforce?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I loved the phrase that you used there, just in terms of it's about superpowering people. It's about making them better able to do the things that they love. Are you
Yeah.
beginning to see that? And is that filtering through maybe in terms of the apprentice experience as well? I mean, do the apprentices see? I mean, I know that they'll have seen the use of things like the augmented reality stuff, because obviously that's a very visual
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
how do they react to the organization using AI to be more effective, to be better able to support them?
Well, I think, whether they see this at the moment or not. I mean, and this is a journey that we're on. My goal is to, but part of being a modern leader and a modern manager, and that's the world that we're in, right? We deliver leadership and management apprenticeships. If you're not a leader or a manager that isn't in some way embracing AI, then you've probably got some pretty big issues coming up. Because AI is completely being democratized. Anybody can use it. It just depends. It's just using it within the parameters of your role. So one of the modules that we've put into our apprenticeships is actually talking about how they can use AI. So throughout the program, but also in their roles as well. So giving them that kind of, that knowledge, it's part of what we do. And I like to think that organizations choose to work with us because they know how open we are to working with AI for efficiencies. Ultimately, what the learner will see is more face time and more access to the coaches when they want to see them. So they have a choice, but they don't get less access. They will get more quality access with somebody who's more equipped to do the job. But that will be something that will be a hygiene factor. That will just be an expectation of what they see. They won't see that that's AI doing that behind the scenes. They'll just understand that that's the benchmark of what a program should be. But without AI, you're not able to provide that time for the coach to be able to spend that quality time because they'd be focusing on the other areas, and the operational model would mean that, you know what, you just cannot give them that time to do it. So they don't need to see it ultimately. If AI is behind it, then AI is behind it, you know. So yeah, that's what excites me. And there's sorry, go on, Rob.
No, well, I was just going to say, in essence, that's about saying I'm going to use people at my interface with people, and I'm going to enable them to have the time to be able to kind of do a great job in that by taking some of the things that they had to do their job in the back office, so to speak, but just make it easier for them.
Absolutely. Let's take a coach's role. No coach gets into our business to do admin. Does anyone get into any business to do admin unless you're admin support? I suppose. But no one gets into it to do admin. So we can take the simple jobs away from our people, and we can get them focusing on, face-to-face interaction, and quality face-to-face interaction, armed with all the right tools. Then why wouldn't you do that? What's really interesting at the moment, though, is your face-to-face and some of the things that we're exploring at the moment around advanced voice, and advanced voice linking into AI avatars as well, in a virtual space. I mean, it's going to evolve again. It will absolutely evolve again. But I just see this as in learning, I see this as a choice. Right? Some people will prefer to talk to an AI agent. Some people will talk to a human. Some people will choose to go to a workshop. Some people will choose to do it online. Some people are introverts, some people are extroverts. It works the same way. When you're in a virtual space, for instance, some people love having the fact that they are an avatar because they can get involved in conversation because it's not them. They feel much more comfortable being stepping outside their comfort zone because it is them, but it's kind of quite not them. So for me, it's all about choice of learning. And if I want to engage with an AI agent because I don't feel, it's the classic for me is things like asking stupid questions. There's no stupid questions, is there? But you know what? Our brain tells us that we don't want to look stupid, so therefore don't ask the question. Well, ask an AI agent that question, you know what? And then you can spend some more quality time with the coach. And the same applies in what's it called in marketing. That was the lesson that came from me. We've had a chatbot on the website for a long time, and people ask the simple, basic questions that they may not ask an agent. They choose to interact with a chatbot rather than choosing to act with an agent. Sorry, with a person. So it happens all the time, and that will only become more and more integrated.
So you've already touched on some of the ideas and some of the things that you're thinking about there for the future of your business. But if there's other business owners listening to this at this point, maybe who are kind of in that space that you've been in over the last year or two, what advice would you give to them as they maybe they've already done some experimentation with large language models, but thinking about then stepping into agents and then even teams of agents in support of their people? What kind of advice would you give to them based on your experience to date?
Oh, that's really a good question, that Rob, because I'm looking in the mirror here and giving myself that advice, aren't I? It's you've kind of got to run quickly with it because and take some risks because it moves so quickly, right? I mean, before you know it, you've lost that kind of that advantage, but you've also got to think about the human side of it and make sure you bring people on a journey, and that's I struggle with that sometimes. It's that push and pull piece where it's not easy. Practically, what I would say is stop thinking about it as almost as agents. So when I look at it now, I almost any interactions I have with an agent or with AI, I get the best outcomes by thinking about it as a person. That's how I kind of I manage it. So it's just a different way of framing it. So when I did an initial mind map and looked at right across our business, where are all the areas where we can where we can use it? We just didn't look at it and go, we tried to look at it with a point of view of not where we are now, but where we will be. And you have to think about it in that way. You know, I remember going on a session one time with somebody called Lila Powlack, who talks about disruption and speaks at Singularity University in Silicon Valley. And she said sometimes tech's just got to be, good enough. It's at the out to adopt it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's got to be good enough, but it's better than what you had before. And that's kind of where I am with it, where it's not going to be perfect. It's still going to be a bit clunky. But you've got to be able to look over the horizon and get out of that mindset that goes, but I can't do this, and I can't do that, and I can't do the other. Because pretty much guaranteed in 6 to 12 months, it will be able to do that at a much, much cheaper price. So that's a mindset piece of not looking at where you are now, but looking at where it could be in your business in 12 months and kind of starting to start the journey there. So that's probably the advice that I'd give.
And what you've described in that answer is that point about, I mean, always learning. I mean, you are an always learning business anyway, in the context of what you do with everybody in which you engage with. But actually, the advice for other businesses is that if you're in the midst of doing things, in the midst of experimenting, then that'll give you greater insight about the things that you can do next as the market continues to evolve at pace.
Absolutely, and it goes back to this piece around, we can build as much, we can plan, we can build, we can write things down, we can, but ultimately it will probably end up being something different to where you started. But if you don't do it, then you don't start that journey. When I bought a VR headset, at the start of lockdown, I didn't really imagine that I'd be running global programs in a metaverse, and my graphic designer would be, designing experiences for, to bring learning to life. It's just kind of it's just about just trying, just experiment, and just doing it. One of the challenges that we got now is what we don't. It's almost like we got to that stage of, the example that I use is PPC. We used to do a lot of pay per click on Google, and I think back in 2005 we started using it. The interface was so easy. It was just, two, three things. You put in a credit card, you say you want to optimize around a few words, and off you go. Well, try to get into the Google interface now as a beginner. It's you've got to be skilled at it, and AI is getting a little bit like that now, because you become paralyzed by choice. Well, do I use ChatGPT? And what version of ChatGPT should I be using? Should I be using Claude? Should I be actually, what's Copilot, and all that type of stuff? And we become paralyzed by, and we end up doing nothing sometimes. Well, I would just say, edge your bets on something, and just start seeing what it can do, right? And just ask the question, what if? So and of course as well, there is an element of expertise that's needed around it, and that's where the conversations that we had were really important to say, okay, well, these are the ideas, but what's the art of the possible? Because with all due respect, it's not my role to start looking at how we can, integrate into all our systems, because I've got a knowledge gap on things that we need to use. I'm not a programmer. But that is the great thing about AI, isn't it? Because to start to get excited about it, you don't need to be a programmer. But yeah, it's, without stating the obvious, experiment, but then find a partner that understands your business. And that was the exciting thing for us. We kind of went, hey, look, needle in a haystack, this, right? Who'd you work with? Ah, great. Well, I know somebody we trust. I know somebody we have a conversation with. I know somebody who's interested in the art of the possible, and that person also has a knowledge of us as a business, and they also have a knowledge of education. You know what? We're gonna have to take some risks together, aren't we? But at least we're in a good we're a good team to take risks, because there's trust there, and an experience on both sides of what we need to do. I don't know. My mantra is, it's not where we are now, it's where we're going to be.
Yeah.
And it's where the tech's going to be. You've got to be able. It's just moving so quickly. It's that disruptive curve. We've seen it coming. We've seen it come. Now it's going vertical, and it's doubling in its power all the time. But it's still like the Wild West, isn't it? It's still the art of the possibles there. That's what's really exciting. You can make it happen for yourself. It's so. Yeah, love it, Rob.